I think the core thing that you said there that I want to highlight is that after you've done the automation in your host CRM org, all of your other favorite integration strategies are still valid. Like that's effectively what you said. So if you're looking at, well, I have this and I have a point integration over here that's been working great. Now that I've added Data Cloud on top, I've enriched my data and I'm still sending this stuff to my point integration, which then may be feeding back up to my Data Cloud because it can. That's working. I've got MuleSoft over here connecting all these other systems from my CRM. Some of them not even touching my CRM directly. And then I'm adding that Data Cloud connection. That all still works fine. Like all of those patterns, you don't need to like throw all that out to make Data Cloud work. And in fact, it's best practice to not do that. Like if you have a data cleansing tool, if you have a staging database where you're monitoring a lot of these changes before it gets into your primary data lake to be distributed across multiple systems and leveraging MuleSoft, all that stuff, all those strategies are still relevant. It's not like, oh, Data Cloud, here's the magic elixir, it solves the problem, we don't need any of this stuff anymore. That's not what it's there to do. And I think where people get confused is because it's so good with the Data Cloud to CRM piece, and like we try to live and breathe inside Salesforce, right? Like as much as possible for many business use cases. Like we don't want a swivel chair. We want the data available in Salesforce. We want it actually in Salesforce, or we at least want to see it, and we want our customers interacting with it. We want our websites tied to it. We want one place to go to figure out how to operate our business and what we're doing. And even though Salesforce isn't the perfect tool for all that, it's really good at doing a lot of the things. So it often becomes the hub in a hub and spoke model for business users, the first place to go to do their jobs, right? And even though you have these other downstream systems that exist, we're now looking at Data Cloud and go like, oh wow, Data Cloud just instantly updates my CRM. This is perfect. I don't need the rest of this stuff. You're like, whoa, slow down. Kind of yes and no for certain things. So you might be able to retire certain integrations, certain point integrations that you've talked about too, where you might be able to retire those in favor of just using Data Cloud and some of this automation. But it's like you said, asterisk, double asterisk, triple asterisk, depending on your use case, depending on your actual feature.
If you don't mind, let me pull up a sticky example. And this is something we've actually seen in some of our, like, our services sales that we do with Salesforce. We have our multi-org data sharing architecture that we've rolled out for a lot of customers, very heavily invested on the Heroku front there in terms of bringing data together, combining it, then surfacing the combined data back to both orgs in a way that like they can see that, act on it, report on it, not necessarily change the other org's data because you don't want that, potentially control what gets exposed. And, something that we've heard from the Data Cloud teams or certain sales team members in Data Cloud's early sales push was like, well, Data Cloud can do this. We don't need that architecture anymore. Well, it's like, well, can it actually do what we do? Because what we do in our data sharing, right, is take the native data from both orgs, sync it into like a single data repository, combine that data, and then expose the combined data to both orgs as external objects. We also provide a filtering functionality to say you can control if there's data that you don't want in that combined data pool, whether that's for compliance reasons or like trust reasons in terms of like you've got business units that work with each other's competitors, things like that. Like we have all that in there and we bring that data back. If we talk about what we're looking at here, so one, if you try to replace that with Data Cloud, it's not Heroku as its own standalone node between two Salesforce orgs. This Data Cloud is going to live alongside one of them. And that means that one org that has Data Cloud could potentially use copy fields or related lists. And if they use copy fields, this isn't, oh, hey, you can see the other org's version of the data or this, that, or the other. It's we're going to write over your data with what's in Data Cloud. So it's going to replace the native data. And this is something that we, very heavily talk to in our data sharing pitches. We're like, the golden record is an ideal to strive for, but it's not something you rush into, because if you shoehorn an entire organization into a singular view of a data point or an entity before they're ready,